Movie sets are basically designed to make you fall in love. Long hours, high emotion, artificial intimacy on demand, it's the perfect storm. And it happens over and over with the same dramatic results. So today, we're looking at 3 times an actress fell in love for someone on set. 2 of those stories burned everything down. 1 actually lasted. Let's get into it. It's 2012. Kristen Stewart is one of the most famous women on the planet. Twilight has turned into a cultural obsession, and her relationship with Robert Pattinson, Robston, is the love story millions of fans treat like it's personally theirs. She's also just racked principal photography on Snow White and the Huntsman, a big-budget fairy tale where she plays the hero, and Rupert Sanders is her director. Now think about what that dynamic actually looks like on a film set. Sanders controls everything about how Kristen appears on screen. He decides how she moves, which angles makes her look strong, which moments make her look vulnerable. He's also married with 2 kids and 12 years older than her. None of that stopped what happened next. Paparazzi photos surfaced in July of that year, showing the 2 of them together in a car on a hillside. The images were specific enough that neither of them could deny it. Within hours, the internet didn't just react, it collapsed. Robston was over. The fandom that had invested years of emotional energy into Kristen and Robert's relationship felt personally betrayed. The comments, the trending topics, the open letters, it was a level of public fury that's hard to even describe now. But here's what people don't talk about as much though. What a movie set actually does to you over months of production. You're working 12-hour days together. You're running emotional scenes back to back. You're exhausted and isolated from your real life. And there's one person who is constantly focused on you, constantly shaping how you're seen, constantly telling you that you're doing it right. That's not a normal working relationship. That's a pressure cooker. The line between who you're playing and who you actually are start to dissolve slowly without you noticing it happening. Kristen was playing a character who needed saving. Sanders was directing every frame of that. When the 2 roles bleed into each other like that, the chemistry doesn't stay on screen. But here's where the fallout gets interesting. Because the costs didn't land equally. Kristen lost public sympathy almost overnight. The goodwill she built over the Twilight era evaporated. Rupert Sanders lost his marriage and his sequel. He was removed from the Snow White franchise he just launched. On paper, those consequences sound similar, but they weren't. His career recovered quietly. Hers became defined by that moment for years. Same scandal, completely different paths. That inequality matters because it tells you something real about how these stories get written. The actress pays more. She always pays more. 12 years before Kristen Stewart, Meg Ryan was sitting in almost exactly the same position, except the stakes were even higher, because Meg's entire identity was built on being the woman you root for in love. We're talking about an actress who gave us Sally Albright and Annie Reid. By the year 2000, Meg Ryan was America's sweetheart in the most literal sense of the phrase. She wasn't just playing a lovable rom-com hero, she was the genre. Her face on a poster was a promise to the audience that everything would work out. She was also married to Dennis Quaid and filming Proof of Life in remote locations in Ecuador and England. The movie, full irony intended, is about a woman trying to save her kidnapped husband. Meg Ryan plays the devoted wife, Russell Crowe plays the man who shows up to help her. And somewhere between the remote locations, the weeks away from home, and the high-stake emotional material they were filming together, it stopped being just a movie. The affair became public in late 2000. Dennis Quaid filed for divorce. Russell flew back to his life in Australia, where his career barely registered a scratch. And Meg walked into a version of her public life she never fully recovered from. Audiences turned on her fast. Not because infidelity is rare in Hollywood, it isn't, but because Meg Ryan specifically had built her entire career on being trustworthy in love. The characters she played were women you believed in, Women who got it right. Once the news broke, people couldn't watch the movies the same way. The image and the person had fused together so completely that when the person cracked, the image cracked too. The roles dried up, not all at once, but steadily. The romantic comedy offers that would have flooded her inboxes 2 years earlier stopped coming. She'd been the gold standard for the genre, and not a genre didn't want her back. Russell Crowe released Gladiator that same year. He won an Oscar. Different decade, same inequality as Kristen and Rupert. The woman absorbs the damage, the man moves on. When your public identity is built on being the one who gets a love right, the set doesn't just put your relationship at risk, it puts the whole thing at risk. Everything you built, everything audiences believe about you, all of it becomes collateral. So what does it actually look like when two people meet on a film set and don't let it destroy them? It starts in 2016. Zendaya and Tom Holland are both teenagers when they film Spider-Man: Homecoming together. Both of them are deep inside the Marvel machine. Massive franchises, massive expectations, fan bases that track their every public move. If there was ever a situation designed to pressure young relationships into burning out fast, this was it. And here's what they did. Nothing. Publicly nothing. No confirmation, no red carpet moments, no performative Instagram post. For years, the relationship existed somewhere between rumor and reality, and they let it stay there. Photographers caught glimpses, people speculated. The internet ran with it repeatedly, and every time they said as little as possible and went back to work. That restraint is harder than it sounds. When you're that famous, science feels like lying. Fans feel entitled to confirmation. Publicists push you towards controlled reveals because a managed moment is better than a leaked one. Zendaya and Tom held the line anyway. When they were finally photographed together in the car in July of 2021, it landed completely different than the Kristen Stewart photos did 9 years earlier. There was no collapse, no public fury, no sense of betrayal. It felt like a confirmation of something people had already quietly decided was real. The reaction was warm because the relationship had been built somewhere private, somewhere the cameras couldn't get to it first. That's the thing nobody talks about when they study the set romance curse. It's not that the set creates fake chemistry. Sometimes the chemistry is completely real. The problem is what happens when you let the set become the relationship, when the bubble of production becomes the whole world, and you never actually build anything outside of it. Kristen and Meg both got swallowed by the set. The intensity of the filming, the emotional weight of the work, the isolation from ordinary life. It all collapsed the boundary between the job and the person. Zendaya and Tom treated the job as the job. They kept their real lives somewhere the director's camera couldn't frame it. They also never needed each other to complete a role that they were already playing. Zendaya had her own career, her own identity, her own path that had nothing to do with Tom Holland. Same in reverse. Neither one had a director deciding how the other looked on screen. They were equals, on parallel tracks, who happened to fall for each other while doing good work. That's what relationship goals actually looks like when it comes from a film set. Not the chemistry, not the scandal, the decision to protect something real before anyone else gets to define it for you. Now, if you want more stories about couples who got it right, this video right here is where we break down the ones who built something that actually lasted. So make sure you watch it next.